Qualify for the Indy 500, but it takes speed and courage. To make Indy is one thing. To win it and have your face recorded in auto racing history is a goal reached by a select few. Day number 3 of qualifying for the 72nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and we are live at the Brickyard for those qualification runs. And we have had several so far, and we expect more here in the final hour of qualifications. The weather here today, well, it's been sunny throughout most of the morning and early afternoon, but now it's mostly cloudy, and the temperature is 80 degrees. Winds are from the southwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. There's a 20% chance of rain yet this afternoon, and the Weather Bureau is saying about a 20% chance of rain for tomorrow, and that's very important for these drivers who are thinking about waiting until tomorrow. Now let's update you on the qualifying procedure. 68 have passed technical inspection. We've had 52 presentations at the line, 47 qualification attempts, and 4 rookie qualifiers are in the field, and the average is 210.538 miles an hour. And good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome to day number 3 qualifying for the Indianapolis 500-mile race. We have had 5 qualifiers so far this afternoon, and A.J. Foyt is in the field. Just a few minutes ago, he put his Lola in the field with an average of 209.696 miles an hour, so he is solidly in this year's starting lineup. It's been a very long and frustrating month for A.J., but he is finally in. With me is David Hobbs, who started here at the 500 a couple of times. And David, for many drivers, it's getting down to it. I mean, they work all year for this, and it's slowly floating away from them.
Well, it certainly is slowly floating away, and it's floating away on the heat. It's been very frustrating for a lot of people today. They all went out this morning at 9 o'clock and were all running 210, 211. Come the 11 o'clock qualifying, and got up to 1 o'clock, and a lot of them could only run about 207, 208, so a lot of them waved off. We've got Raul Bussell to go. Johnny Rutherford's had a rough week. He crashed last week. They spent all the week putting the car together. Ran very well yesterday afternoon and this morning. Got ready for qualifying, and the engine popped again. So we won't be seeing him out today. That leaves it tomorrow. Tomorrow, as you say, there's at least a 20% chance of rain, maybe even more, and it's supposed to be even hotter tomorrow than today.
Yeah, that's going to be the real question mark here in this final hour. I think we're going to see a lot of people qualify simply because of the possibility of rain tomorrow. Well, last year, Pancho Carter was involved in perhaps one of the most spectacular accidents here in the Speedway. Now, this was during practice. The car out of control up at the north end of the racetrack. The car flipped over in its top and then slid along the racetrack for several hundred feet. Miraculously, Pancho Carter walked away from this accident with virtually no injury whatsoever. And Pancho Carter has experienced some problems here this afternoon and this morning also. His first problem occurred during a qualification attempt shortly after 11 o'clock this morning.
Well, he was running extremely well. He was averaging about 208, 209 miles an hour, and on his last lap, he came out of turn 4, got very, very close to the wall, and unfortunately just kissed it. Unfortunately, not being in NASCAR land, it didn't work out how it's supposed to. He ran down the wall, did all the right things, but it popped a right rear tire, and then the car completely got away from him and crashed badly both sides of the track. So that was that car done. However, the team has got a backup car. I think we're going to see this morning's crash now coming up. This is just coming off turn 4. There you see him coming up, gets out close to the wall, and just too close. He was trying to push it a little bit. His speed had been dropping off every lap. Now you see him running down the wall, and there you see the tire explode as it finally just rubs through the wall, the tire wall, on the wall of the track, and he really bashes the front corner of the car there and doesn't do it any good at all.
He did cross the line, but the yellow light had come on, and so the qualification attempt was null and void. So then we had the track open up for practice for most of the afternoon, as a matter of fact, as the drivers and crews search for speed. And Pancho Carter brought his backup car out. Of course, that one that he crashed was eliminated from the possibility of being repaired. So they went to the garage, they brought the backup car out, and began to work trying to get it back up to speed. But unfortunately, Pancho Carter had another problem. This was about an hour ago as he came off of corner number 2, and the car again was in a problem.
Well, of course, it's a terrible problem for Pancho because that puts him effectively out of the race, because obviously he cannot qualify either of these cars now, and that will put him out of the race. And of course, as we'll hear, it's to be put out of the race at this race, of all races, of course, is absolutely disastrous from a sponsor point of view.
Well, you can see by a replay of this most recent crash that he hit the wall very hard coming out of 2. The car simply wouldn't turn.
God, he was way offline there coming off 2, and of course, he obviously had an understeer problem, and he really did hit the wall tremendously hard. Obviously, that car is not going to be repaired for tomorrow, and I don't think his first one is this morning either.
And Pancho, by the way, was able to walk away from both of those crashes without any injuries, and that, of course, is the good thing. Well, Larry Nuber and Gary Lee are down in the pits to cover the action down there. Let's check in with both. First, here is Larry Nuber.
Well, Bob, every year somebody draws the short straw and gets the assignment of explaining the seemingly impossible to explain system of qualifying here at Indianapolis. So here's my shot. Consider it 4 events. There are 4 separate events that determine the qualifying lineup for the Indianapolis 500-mile race. The first day, second day, third day, and fourth day. The first day starters all start up front, followed by the second day, the third day, which we are determining here today, and then the fourth day qualifiers, should the weather hold up. And of course, the phenomenon about that lineup and what adds all of the drama is that the slowest car in the field becomes the bubble car, no matter what day he qualified, first, second, third, or fourth. And once that 34th car qualifies for the Indianapolis 500, the slowest one in the field is bumped out. And the other big phenomenon about this race, soon, last place in the Indianapolis 500-mile race will be worth $100,000, and this could be the year. That's what's at stake. Gary?
Well, thank you, Larry, and good afternoon. This has been a tough month for 2 past winners. Gordy Johncock, the winner here in 73 and 82, did not get on the track until early in the week, and a lot of engine trouble. Cosworth Power with a March chassis. In fact, the car that was driven to second place last year by Roberto Guerrero. Another past winner, 3-time victor, Johnny Rutherford, as we talked early in the Open, has had a tough week. He crashed last Sunday. The car was worked out, put back together. He was back on the track yesterday, turning laps at 2:11, and in practice this morning. Then a fuel management problem resulted in a burned piston. The crew members, all 10 of them, worked for 1 hour and 36 minutes. They put a new Buick power plant back in the race car. John went out and put another hole in another piston. So it's not looking good for the 3-time champion, Johnny Rutherford. A tough week for both Rutherford and Gordy Johncock. Bob?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Let's now review for you the starting lineup as it stands right now for this year's 72nd running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Starting on the front row will be the Penske cars. For the first time in history, all members of one team. On the pole, Rick Mears with a 2:19.1, then Danny Sullivan outside Al Unser Sr. In the second row, it's going to be Mario Andretti, Al Unser Jr., and outside row number 2, Ari Luyendyk. Third row, Scott Brayton, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Derek Daly. In row number 4, it's Michael Andretti, Randy Lewis, and Roberto Guerrero. Row number 5 has Kevin Kogan, Tom Sneva, and Phil Kruger. In row number 6, Dick Simon, Teo Fabi, and Rich Vogler. In the 7th row will be Scott Atchison, Jim Crawford, and Bobby Rahal. Then the 8th row, the qualifiers from today, Dominic Dobson, the fastest rookie ever to qualify here at Indianapolis. A.J. Ford in the middle of the 8th row. Outside the 8th row will be Tony Bettenhausen. And then in row number 9, John Andretti, another rookie who qualified earlier today, and Rocky Moran driving for A.J. Foyt. Terrell Palmroth, another rookie here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, has pulled in line for a technical inspection, so he could be qualifying here in the next few minutes. We'll be back with more of our live coverage from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway right after this. Third day qualifying at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is being brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Kendall Motor Oil for protection worth its weight in gold. And by Oldsmobile. Test drive a new Oldsmobile soon at your nearest Oldsmobile dealer. We are live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and taking the green flag on his qualification attempt is Terrell Palmroth, a rookie here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, who is trying to work his way back into his first 500 field. Now, he was the first rookie who exceeded 200 miles an hour in rookie orientation, which is a program held prior to the opening of the Speedway for everybody else. It involves rookies only, and he was the first to exceed 200 miles an hour in that. He is from Finland, and of course that recalls the fact that former world champion K.K. Rosberg is also from that area. Now, the speed you'll be seeing, 218, that was his speed down the backstretch, and then the other speed was the speed he was achieving coming off of number 3. So that will give you an indication of perhaps how his tires are wearing and how he is coming off of that backstretch. Now, the first lap of qualifying for Terrell Palmroth is a good one. It's above what many think it will take to earn the field, 207.488 miles an hour.
A very good speed, and the guy who's going to be getting worried now, of course, is poor old Scott Atchison, who qualified on the first day, thought everything was going to be okay, and of course is the slowest man so far at 205. There you see, 219 down the straight, 202 coming off turn 3. So that's only 17-mile-an-hour loss through that, what is virtually a 90-degree corner.
Second lap.
Green flag.
Second lap of qualifying is completed. Taro Palmroth is halfway through. Now, he has come a long way here in this month of May. He originally thought that perhaps he would wait until 1989, but things came together for him, and he is doing a fine job on his qualifying run. The second lap is faster than the first. It's 208.092 miles an hour. A very impressive run. This, of course, is a car owned by Dick Simon, and Simon bringing along another rookie in the 500 field. There's his backstretch speed, 219.940, and the third turn speed is 204. He's doing a great job out there.
Picked up 2 miles an hour in that turn on that lap, so that's where he picked up speed, which brought his average up to 208.
Third lap is complete. The white flag has been displayed, and Taro Palmroth is on his final lap of qualifying. And the third lap is coming in, and that is the fastest of all so far. Taro Palmroth on lap number 3 records a 208-mile-an-hour lap, 208.367. There you can see the average of the first 3 laps. It's in excess of 207.982 miles an hour. And Palmroth now brings the car into the north end of the racetrack, setting up for turn number 4. 219 was the straightaway speed, and 205 in the third.
Picked up another mile and a half there, so he should just crank his overall average for the 4 laps. With any luck here, he'll crank it to over 208 miles an hour.
Taro Palmroth concludes his qualification run. He's trying to become the fastest rookie ever to qualify, but he will fall short of that. That mark was set just a few minutes ago when Dominic Dobson qualified for this year's 500 at 210.096. Taro Palmroth's 4th lap was 208.059, and the 4-lap average is 208.001.
Well, that is just over 208. You can't get much closer to 001. It's cutting it fine, I think.
So Dick Simon now has 3 cars in the race. This one, the car that Dick Simon qualified, and Ari Lyondike. And there is a 4th car in the Dick Simon stable, and it has been leased temporarily to Spike Gelhausen, who's trying to get the speed necessary to make the field. So Howdy Holmes now gets strapped into his race car, and he will be the next to attempt a qualification run here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As we indicated, A.J. Foyt is in the field. It was a long time coming, but A.J. finally put together 4 good laps and has earned his way into yet another 500 field. His laps, 210.669 miles an hour. Second lap was 210.605. On lap number 3, the speed was 209.113 miles an hour, and A.J. is on his final lap of qualifying here, and this lap will be 208.415 miles an hour for a 4-lap average for A.J. of 209.696.
His car went particularly fast down the straight. He was pulling 222 miles an hour down the straight, and as we saw, Palmroth, for instance, was pulling 219. Most of the Cosworth engine cars have been pulling round about 217 to 220. So A.J. must have some power in that Cosworth engine, his chassis.
You know, Rocky Moran qualified for A.J. Foyt earlier today, and that's kind of an unusual situation. Usually, A.J. Foyt qualifies and gets himself in the field, and then he begins to work with another one of his cars to get it in. But this year, Rocky Moran qualified earlier, and then A.J. came along and did likewise.
Well, of course, A.J.'s also turned into a bit of a used car dealer this week. Unlike Dick Simon, who's leasing his cars to his customers, A.J.'s selling them outright. And of course, the car that we'll see Raul Mazel qualifying later on this afternoon was, of course, until this time last week, one of A.J. Foyt's stable.
Here comes A.J. Foyt off of corner number 4. This was earlier this afternoon, and A.J. once again with a 4-lap qualifying average of 209.696 miles an hour. So the wait and the frustration is over for A.J. Foyt. Gary Lee had a chance to talk with A.J.
A.J., when you win the race 4 times, which includes traveling 200 laps, to run 4 laps to qualify doesn't seem all that difficult. But for you this year, it has been.
Well, we got here with some new cars, and right at first we burned a couple pistons on the engines. We had some problems there, which put us about 4 or 5 days back. Then we turned around and we put a new engine in this car this morning. In one lap it come apart, so we put another engine in. It had about 700 miles on it. And the biggest thing what we want to do was just get in the race and be ready to race them.
Well, despite the fact that the engine had 750 miles on it, he put it in the show, and A.J. Foyt, at the moment, is in the middle of row number 8. Howdy Holmes is on the racetrack, has not taken the green flag yet. We will be back with his qualification in just a moment in Indianapolis. We're back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with David Hobbs, Larry Newber, and Gary Lee. Howdy Holmes has slowed on the backstretch, and he will not be completing this qualification attempt. He was trying to qualify for his 6th 500. He has not raced here since 1985 and will have to try again to put this car in the field. Gary Lee is down in the pit area with Dominic Dobson, who is the fastest rookie qualifier in the history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Gary.
Dominic, I think I was the first to tell you, in fact, that you had set a 1- and 4-lap track record for rookies, and we say kind of a retread rookie because you had the unfortunate happening of being bumped last year.
Yeah, it was a big disappointment last year to get bumped. I remember standing here talking to you at the time and watching myself get bumped. It feels real good to be in the race this year.
But you came here without a car, without a crew.
That's right. We came here having originally entered another car, and we didn't bring it. I found a car when I got back here, and I assembled a crew when I got back here. And the Moore Industries Lola that we had came from Bob at Raynor Garage Doors, originally their entry. So it's all come together really in the last week and a half.
But this was a deal to run only this race. But with a big grin on your face, you said, I think we'll keep this car.
Well, I can tell you I'd sure like to bring this car home and run some more races this year. I think it's an excellent car.
A 210 average last year. We had to console you somewhat. We saw a lot of disappointment, a bitter look on your face, but it's nice to see that big grin. You're in the show with a solid ride. No getting bumped and waiting out the bubble this year.
No, it's been fantastic. I'd really like to thank my crew, Terry Hopkins and Steve, my brother Pat, my sponsors, Moore Industries and Earth Reference Systems, and my family's been so supportive throughout the last couple of years, which have been difficult.
We're watching the last lap of your run right now, and it was a very unique run for this type of qualifying out here because most of the laps have trailed off. You kept finding more speed.
Well, I've been told that you can go around here 16 turns without ever lifting, and I never believed it until today. The track felt good, and we started on new tires, which I think was the right thing to do. We were down on boost the first lap. We screwed that up. That's why my first lap was a little lower, and I think my third lap was the quickest for the fourth lap. But it did. The car was working super. It was really, really hooked up today.
Once again, our congratulations. A new track record, 1 and 4 laps, the fastest rookie qualifier ever, Dominic Dobson. Bob?
All right, thank you. And Dominic's fastest lap was his third at 2:11.253, and the 4-lap average for Dominic, 210.096. Right now, he starts inside of row number 8. And on the racetrack right now is Billy Vukovic III.
As you can see, Dominic Dobson has a lot at stake here. He came with no car, and from his driving, you could see that he was using a lot of this racetrack. Was coming out of these corners very close to the wall.
You know, we talked to him on Tuesday when he was just beginning to get the car up to speed, and one of the things he was worried about was himself. He said that it was taking him a little bit of time to get it readjusted to running here at these fast speeds.
Well, I think it does. Billy Vukovic, an extremely famous name here at the Speedway. Spoke to his father this afternoon, asked him how the lad was doing. He said, well, okay, but they need to find a bit more speed.
This car has one strike. He turned in a 204.084 average and waved off. Now, however, he takes the green flag, and Billy Vukovic III is on the qualification attempt. Billy, of course, graduates from super modified competition. He won 12 of 17 super modified races in USAC last year, and he decided to come here to the big time and see if he couldn't become the third member of this family, the third generation, to make the starting field for the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Now, coming off those corners, he looks to me, coming off the front tire there.
Look to be a little bit high coming off of that corner. There you see a 213.7 down the straightaway and a 207.8 coming off the third corner. He's doing a pretty good job. He comes off of corner number 4. We'll see what his average is for lap number 1. He crosses the stripe.
Well, to come off the corner at 207 from what we saw earlier is obviously extremely fast, only losing 7 miles an hour in the corner.
And the first lap speed for Billy Vukovich III is above 207 miles an hour. It's 207.876 miles an hour. That's 43.295 seconds. Paul Diaglovich is the crew chief on this car. He helped Fabrizio Barbaza and Randy Lanier both achieve Rookie of the Year status here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and he's trying to make Billy Vukovich III in that category.
At 213 down the straight's a bit disappointing for them. They're obviously, if he's coming off the corners at 207 and only getting back to 213, he obviously hasn't got quite as much power as some of the other cars we've seen. 218, 220 is a good speed for Cosmolenko down the straight.
Weather conditions almost ideal at the moment. It's very cloudy here in Indianapolis. The track is cool. There is hardly any breeze at all. Second lap is faster than the first. It's 208.242 miles an hour. 208.242 second lap for Billy Vukovich III. 35 years ago, his grandfather won the Indianapolis 500.
When he comes off when he goes into that one corner, we see that it must be dust coming off his right front wheel. He's getting right to the edge of the line. He's not using quite as much road coming off the corners as maybe he should do, which is loosen the car up a bit and maybe give him a bit more free room, running room.
And the third lap for this third-generation driver is his fastest. He is going faster every lap, and this one is way up there. Third lap for Billy Vukovich III is 209.016, and that moves the three-lap average up to above 208 miles an hour. Normally, you see a driver turn in a fast lap and then begin to work down each lap, but instead it's the opposite for Billy Vukovich. Here he is off corner number 4, and he is about to qualify for his first 500-mile race. There is the checkered flag.
I bet Mario Andretti wishes his laps had gone up instead of gone down, because his first lap was 218. So yeah, his fourth lap was just a fraction quicker.
There's Galen Fox, who is a crew chief on this car, but we don't see Dad, Billy Vukovich Jr. He is undoubtedly somewhere in the pit area and will be, I'm sure, greeting his son at the official photography place. Billy right now just running out of Gasoline Alley, and he is a very happy man. The fourth lap, his best, so he did pick up on every single lap. The fourth lap was 209.051 as opposed to 209.016 on the third lap. The average is 208.545 miles an hour. Just a tremendous run for Billy Vukovich III, and he's one of these guys who has gotten the ride on the ability. Often drivers come here with a lot of money in their pocket and buy a ride, but that has not been the case for Billy Vukovich III. His experience in the short tracks and in super modified competition has earned himself a ride here at the 500-mile race and earned himself a spot in this year's field. We'll be right back. Live at the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for day number 3 of qualifying, and qualifications are underway right now. We remind you that the Motor Week Illustrated update tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll have Speed Week, of course, on the air Thursday night at 7:30 Eastern Time. Ludwig Heimrath Jr. is on the racetrack right now to attempt a qualification run. This car also has one strike against it. Ludwig Heimrath Jr. is a Canadian. He's trying to become the first Canadian to make the field. There is another one who is attempting to, John Jones, but so far his attempts to get into the field have not been fruitful.
Look.
Gary Lee is down in the pit area with Billy Vukovich. Gary?
Well, Billy, we've set another record here. The first time a third-generation driver has qualified, and I can tell you, you can get emotional. You've got tears in the eyes. Congratulations.
Oh, the car felt good there. We went out just about 20 minutes earlier and only ran 202, and we made a change with the front wings, put on some new tires, and it just made it a new race car.
What kind of pressure did you feel after your dad was Rookie of the Year back in 1968, the third-generation Vukovich?
Well, it's hard. I mean, this place, you know, not even that, it's so much pressure anyway to make this race. I mean, it's the biggest race in the world, and it means everything in the world to make it.
And you can see the emotion in Billy's face. Congratulations, a third Vukovich in the Indy 500.
Well, Gary, a year ago tomorrow, this man sweated out the last final minutes, seconds for qualifications for the 1987 Indianapolis 500-mile race. And the phenomenon this month astounds me. you've had 30 laps in this car and 7 or 8 of them in hot laps?
That's about right. I'm not sure. That's close, though.
Now, you've already been up into the 210 range. It was in one of the cooler hours of the day. Is that what you're anticipating now? Or are you going to be happy with the 208, 207?
We'll take anything over a 207, but I think the car couldn't change as drastically as it did. It had to be the weather, so it's cooled off, and we're going to see what happens.
How in the world can you get that much speed out of it, though, with so few hot laps?
Well, and when the car feels good, it feels good. That's all it requires, is if the car feels good, you can go that fast.
Well, Steve Chassie has felt good the few times he's been on the track so far this year. He's shooting for much more than a 205. He could be a qualifier close to 210 miles an hour this year at Indianapolis.
Well, tomorrow night, live here on ESPN at 7:30 Eastern Time, the Stanley Cup Finals continue with the Boston Bruins and the Edmonton Oilers. Edmonton leads, of course, 2-0. Boston Gardens will be very busy tomorrow because in the afternoon, the Boston-Atlanta NBA series moves there, and then they clear out and prepare the ice for the Stanley Cup Finals, 7:30 Eastern Time tomorrow night here on ESPN. On the racetrack right now is Raul Boesel. And the Domino's Pizza Hot One, there you can see his top speed for the month is 209.399. You remember last week when we were on the air, Doug Shearson, his car owner, bought this machine from A.J. Foyt. It has been repainted, and he is now coming out of corner number 4 looking for the green flag, and here it is. Raul Boesel is on his qualification run. He was the fastest rookie qualifier in 1985, driving Ford Excitement at 206.4 miles an hour. During this past year, he has concentrated his racing efforts in Europe and concentrated the point where he won the World Sports Car Championship driving Ford Jaguar, and will be driving this year at Le Mans with Danny Sullivan, Kevin Kogan, and Derek Daly, a few other drivers who have already made their way into this year's field.
Jaguar.
Oh, is that the way you pronounce it?
Jaguar.
Oh, sorry. 219 there on the backstretch and 209.7 in turn number 3. Boesel on his first run coming down the main straightaway.
A good corner speed there, 209, and a pretty fair top speed too, so that should be a pretty fair lap for our Raul.
And it is a good one indeed. It's above 210 miles an hour for Raul Boesel in the Lola. Off of corner number 2, first lap is 210.266 miles an hour, 42.803 seconds.
As you can see on this lap, he's using more road than he did on the first lap. As his tires warm up, he warms up and gets everything set up. He's coming out very close to the wall on exit there. Coming down through turn 4 now, onto that main straight, really close to the wall where our speed camera is, speed shot, over the line.
Lap number 2 is completed. Raul from Brazil, of course, other drivers who have come from Brazil, Emerson Fittipaldi, Nelson Piquet, Ayrton Senna. Raul Boesel on lap number 2 was faster than lap number 1. He's above 211 miles an hour. It's 42.557, 211.481.
A very good speed. No straightaway speed. Oh, there, 219. Okay, about the same as he was doing before. And off, and again, 209, nearly 210 miles an hour off the corner. Because as you can see, he's only losing just over 10 miles an hour in that corner, which is tremendous.
This racetrack very fast. He crosses the line and completes lap number 3 of qualifying. One more circuit to go, and Raul Boesel will be in today's field. Now, the fastest qualifier so far today is Dominic Dobson at 210.096, and right now Boesel has put the laps together, at least the first 3, to become the fastest of the day. Third lap was faster than the second, 211.501, and again, David, we're seeing the speeds increase every lap instead of the way they usually go.
It's most peculiar. It's the weather and everything here, and there we are, the same, almost exactly the same speeds, 19.9 on the straight, which is the same as last time. 9 and a little bit coming off. Very close to the wall now. Tires are starting to go away. However, it doesn't matter now because there's the checkered flag. And Raul should get in with an average of probably, with a bit of luck, just over 211 miles an hour.
And now there are only 4 spots remaining in this year's 500-mile field. The 4th lap was slower than the 2nd and 3rd, but faster than the 1st. 4th lap for Raul Boesel was 210.990. 210.990. That makes his 4-lap qualifying average 211.4 34.058, and Raul Boisel now becomes the fastest qualifier of the day, and that moves him to inside of row number 8. Raul Boisel on the cool-down lap now. He'll be coming in and get the official photograph taken. Scott Atchison there at the top of the screen is the slowest qualifier in 19th position. He was the slowest on day number 1, averaging 205.142. He brought his backup car out here to the Speedway earlier this week and had a problem in turn 4. The car just simply got out from under him, hit the wall on the outside, and then slid across the entrance to the pit area and came to rest just at the entrance to the pit area, and Scott Atchison received some injury to his face. He was taken to Methodist Hospital and retained there and was not medically cleared to run some laps out here at the Speedway today. So Scott Atchison remains the slowest man in the field at this time at a little over 205 miles an hour. Raul Boisel has pulled his car into the pit area, and it begins to climb out of that car, and we will be back to talk with him in just a moment. We are live on day number 3 of qualifying for the 72nd running of the 500.
We are back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Raul, as I said earlier this week, sometimes one door must close before another can open. You wiped out the March last week. You bought a Lola, and now the fastest qualifier on day number 3. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. That's something that we thought maybe we can achieve. So we run very fast with this car for the last 2-3 days, and today we make one attempt early on, but it's very hot. The track is very slippery, so we waved the yellow flag. But you know, the normal pista team Shelson did a super job and turned out this car, and you know, I cannot ask for more.
Just a matter of feeling more comfortable in this race car.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable. We run 213s for the last 2 days, but today I think because the track conditions changed so much, so it's very hard when you go out and certainly lose a lot of speed. And the car changed the handling, so we decided to wait because we thought it's the weather, not the car, and pay off.
Congratulations, Raul. Another driver qualifying now, Steve Chassis. Bob?
All right, thank you. And as we mentioned earlier, he will be one of several Indianapolis 500 drivers that will be participating in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and we'll have special live coverage here on ESPN during the month of June. Now, Steve Chassis is on his qualification attempt. Steve Chassis driving car number 35. This car has 1 strike against it. Steve Chassis holds the record for 8-cylinder unsupercharged stock block engines here at the Speedway. In 1985, he turned it at 204.2 and still holds the record in that category. There's the completion of lap number 1 for Steve Chassis, who makes his home in a suburb of Indianapolis on the north side. Well, Steve Chassis is going to have to find a little bit more speed and at least be comfortable with a little bit faster speed. On lap number 1, it's 44.098 and a speed of 204.091. And David, that seems to be right on the borderline.
Well, it would be. We've got Rutherford to come. We've got a couple of other relatively quick cars, but he may not get in the field. He may decide to take that and risk getting in the field.
That statistic there of turn number 3, 194 miles an hour off of turn number 3. He is really pushing it, it would seem, in the corners. You saw the straightaway speed, not that impressive, but boy, I'll tell you, he was really pushing it through the corners, and this second lap is definitely not going to cut it for Steve Chassis.
Oh, I think they'll give him the yellow flag here. The car looked very twitchy there. You saw it give that big twitch. If we can see that on a long lens, I can tell you, it feels a lot worse than that inside.
201.739 on lap number 2, and it appears as if Steve Chassis has already been told to come off of the throttle and give up the attempt. So 2 strikes against this car now. Steve Chassis has 1 left, and this qualification attempt has been called off.
Well, straightaway speed is very dependent on your exit speed from the previous corner. It's obviously very important to go around the corners fast, because whatever you come off the corner at, you maintain at least that down the straight. So we don't know whether his chassis setup is such that he's going through the corner too slow and can't pick up the speed down the straight, or whether he's got a bit of a power lag plus a bit of a handling problem.
So the Vietnam veteran will come into the pit area and search for more speed at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on this Saturday afternoon. We are live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Speed World, day number 3 of qualifying for the 500-mile race. We have 4 spots open, and we have had 8 qualifiers so far today. The fastest, Raul Boisel at 2:11. Other qualifiers, Dominic Dobson, A.J. Foyt, Billy Vukovich III, Tony Bettenhausen, Terrell Palmroth, John Andretti, and Rocky Moran, the slowest qualifier today at 2:07.1, but not the slowest qualifier in the field. That is still goes to Scott Atchison at 2:05.1. Well, there have, as we indicated, 4 spaces remain in this year's field, and there are, it seems, very few cars at this moment that have enough speed to want to qualify and take the chance of being bumped tomorrow when qualification resumes again. Well, there have been many drivers down through the years here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway who have come close to winning, but just not done so. Roger Ward has been visiting with a few. This week, it is Lloyd Ruby. There have been crowd favorites at Indianapolis over the years, but perhaps no one was better loved than Hard Luck Lloyd Ruby. He made the 500 18 straight years from 1960 until his retirement in '77. He finished in the top 10 7 times in those 18 years and was in a position to win on several occasions, but never reached his goal. Last week, Roger Ward talked with Jim Rathman. This week, Roger talks with Texan Lloyd Ruby.
Well, this racing's been my life. Started right out here in '46. Started racing while I was racing motorcycles. And at first, it was just something to do, just fun. Until that first year, I did run. At the end of the year, I'd made about $3,000, and back then, that was a lot of money. And I just thought that'd be working. A lot easier than working at that time. So racing ended up in my life, and it's been good to me, and I wouldn't change nothing.
Lloyd, what do you remember most about Indianapolis?
Well, Indianapolis is something you dream about, and I think every driver ever thinks about racing and wants to go there. I know when I finally decided I'd like to go there, it was the most moment of my life when they said start your engine that first time. And I think that anybody ever even, like you said, drives, that's their goal.
Are there any drivers out there that kind of remind you of you?
Well, there's not enough of them hitting the fence anymore.
Has the sport turned out like you expected, or how do you feel about the sport today?
The cars are so much better, and but I don't think they have the fun that we did. Now it's strictly a business. I mean, the driver, has to promote a sponsor, and it's just turned into business. He dressed in a driver's suit for the race, and then a suit to go out and do commercials and everything, and they forget the fun of it and enjoyment out of it.
You look at all these beautiful trophies in your trophy room. Is there any one particular trophy that kind of sticks out in your mind, or one particular race that you know, you like to think about that one because it was more satisfying?
Yeah, there is some trophies. I wish there's one here from the Speedway, but that never did happen. I think one that really, well, it'd be two of them. It really, the first one nationally in championship was at Milwaukee. But one that really sticks out, Mario, and I was running pretty strong, and I just was able to go by him on the outside just the last few laps. I think that at that time it'd give you more satisfaction just to win one like that.
What do you do with your leisure time?
Well, I got a little oil industry. I go out and look at a few wells, and then as soon as that's over with by noon, because they said if you can't finish your work by noon, you got too much work to be done. So.
Lloyd Ruby made the 500 18 times. He is 8th on the all-time appearance list, tied with Roger McCluskey. Of course, A.J. Foyt is the leader in that category with 30 appearances. No one at the qualification line, and so the track is open for practice. Let's go down to Larry Newber, who is with Gordon Johncock. He is 6th on that list of all-time appearances with 21 races. Larry?
21 races, Bob, and right now, if there were a qualifying line, Gordy would be second. The car is second in line, but you've made a late decision to not go out this afternoon. You're hoping that you can hold on to this position for tomorrow, right?
Well, yes, we'll hold our position if we stay here second in line. That'll put us out early tomorrow, and you know we've been having a few problems. We got up to 204 once today, but we found what our problem was, and we'd like to go out and be able to see if it's going to solve our problems, you know. But right now, the way the speeds are going, you wouldn't dare to settle for much less than a high 207. So, you know, we're not sure. But if we pull a line and make an attempt now, we go to the tail end of the line.
Gordy, I saw a last-minute change of the wing and some tires. Was there still some thoughts that, well, maybe we will go out?
That's what we thought, yes. We had made the decision at that time to try new tires in a new, different wing. But one of the biggest reasons we don't have a backup car. If I had a backup car, I definitely would go out and do it. But if we wreck this car trying to run another 4 or 5 mile an hour quicker than we've been running, then we're out of the race. So I think I'd rather just chance it and wait till tomorrow.
Well, Bob, another two-time winner, going to chance it and wait for tomorrow, hoping that the weather will hold up. The weather report is that it may rain tomorrow, but it could be late in the afternoon, so all those people who are in line, like Gordy Johncock, might have an opportunity in the early morning hours.
Tomorrow definitely will be an interesting day, Larry, as so many car driver combinations are right on the edge, and there are 4 more spots remaining, but nobody wants to take a chance right now. They'll wait until tomorrow to see what everybody else does before taking a qualification run. Back with more in just a moment from Indianapolis. Welcome back to the Brickyard and qualifications for the 72nd Indianapolis 500. When they first started racing here at Indianapolis, crashes often resulted in injury. Riding mechanic C.L. Anderson was thrown into his car. Harry Knight swerved to miss him and hit Herb Rydell's car in the pits. Injuries were common. But then safety belts and roll bars. 1963, Cactus Jack Turner suffered a back injury in this tumble down the front stretch. This was his last ride in an Indy car. Jack retired after this incident. Activity at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway right now is confined to practice. There you can see the qualifying line, and those cars are in line getting a spot for the qualifying tomorrow. Nobody right now thinks they have the speed necessary to assure themselves a spot in the field. So what they do is line up at the north end of the track, and then that line is good when qualification resumes tomorrow, and it will resume at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, and we'll have live coverage from 5 until 7 tomorrow on Eastern Time. And we welcome those of you who have been watching the Preakness. We have qualified a total of 8 cars so far today. Raul Boisel, the quickest, at 211, and the slowest, Rocky Moran, at 207 miles an hour.
Actually, a pretty good day's speed, really. Slightly more than we thought.
As we take a look now at the starting lineup, it's Mears, Sullivan, and Al Unser Sr. on the front row with Mario Andretti, Al Jr., and Lyondike in row number 2. Going to row number 3, Scott Brayton occupies the inside position, Emerson Fittipaldi in the middle, and then Derek Daly. Row 4, it's Michael Andretti, Randy Lewis, and Roberto Guerrero. Row number 5, as the lineup stands right now, Kevin Kogan, Tom Sneva, and Phil Kruger. Row number 6, Dick Simon, Teo Fabi, and Rich Vogler. In row number 7, the slowest car in the field at the moment, Scott Atchison, day 2 qualifiers, Jim Crawford and Bobby Rahal, and then the drivers that qualified today, Raul Boisel, Dominic Dobson, the fastest rookie ever at the Speedway, and A.J. Foyt. In the 9th row, Billy Vukovic III, Tony Bettenhausen, and Taro Palmroth. And then in row number 10, it's John Andretti and Rocky Moran. So that means that there are 4 spots remaining open, the outside of row number 10 and all of the row number 11. The average speed of the field at the moment is 210.398 miles an hour. Should be a very interesting day tomorrow, especially during those final 2 hours, David, when we're here, because these cars will be trying to bump others from the starting lineup.
Well, poor old Scott Atchison's having a long week of it, isn't he? I mean, the guy's got to wait till 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon to find out whether he's finally going to be in this race. And with the bump he had yesterday, Steve Chass's car gone back to the inspection stand, so he's obviously going to have another go at qualifying today. He's going to have to get on with it. He's only got 6 minutes.
He had some laps at 2:08 in practice just a few moments ago, and he thought, well, that's good enough. Let's put it through tech and get it qualified today. And it's going to take a few minutes for the USAC officials to tech this car before they push it to the presentation line, and we only have, according to my watch, about 6 minutes remaining before the track officially closes. So the question becomes, at this point, will Steve Chassis be able to get his car down to the presentation line before the gun goes off? And Steve would like very much to be able to do that, because it is very cool, at least cooler than it has been all day here in Indianapolis, and there is a lot of cloud cover. Let's go to Larry Newber.
Now, Bob and David, here's the story now on Steve Chassis' ability or inability to get out on the racetrack. He only has to get out on the racetrack by 6 o'clock. Once he's out on the racetrack, the clock is running. He only has that opportunity. But if he can get on the speedway before the 6 o'clock gun goes off, he can complete his run. So that's what we're racing against right now.
There you see them measuring the car up. That's Bettenhausen's car. I think it just went by here a few moments ago. Made a pretty big explosion. I think it blew the turbo pipe or something off like that. So that's going to slow things up here. And if Chassis is through his procedure, if the track's still closed, he still can't get out.
Now, this is just a toe-in. We have been told that it is the racetrack is dry, so there is no oil put down. As soon as they can get Gary Bettenhausen back into the pit area, the track will be cleared, and Steve Chassis will be able to go out for a qualification run. We will stay with the attempt if he gets out onto the racetrack by 6 o'clock. We won't cut away at 6 o'clock. We'll stay through his qualification run. So come back with us in just a moment. We'll see if he makes it out in time.